Hey everyone, welcome to the Game Design Perspective. I am Mao, a designer working on the video game industry, and she is Juna, a playful puppy with experience shooting toys. Today I want to talk about why I believe Final Fantasy VII Advent Children makes absolutely no sense as a sequel to the original game Final Fantasy VII. Before we begin, quick disclaimer. This is only my opinion alone. It does not represent any entity or person or anything besides myself, nor any employer, past, present, or future. Another disclaimer, I'm gonna spoil the ending of Final Fantasy VII and its major plot points. So if you have not played the game, or you're playing through it, I would not recommend you watch this video. If you're my girlfriend, which I don't want you to get spoiled by anything about Final Fantasy VII, please don't watch this video. Watch at your own risk. With that said, let's begin. Alright, so let's begin with what happens at the end of Final Fantasy VII to get the clear picture of why I believe Advent Children does not work as a sequel to this game. So at the end of the game, Sephiroth casts Meteor, right? He wants to destroy the planet to absorb the livestream and become a god. Aerith, because I'm not used to calling her Aerith, sorry about that, Aerith casts Holy, which is the ultimate white magic, and in simple terms, casts a shield on the planet to protect it from Meteor. Right after, Sephiroth kills her. Once Holy is casted, the planet may be able to heal. By doing this, the planet may decide to get rid of the humans or not as part of the healing process. So there are three outcomes for humanity. Either Meteor destroys the planet and kills everyone, Holy saves the planet and gets rid of humanity, because the planet sees humanity as a threat due to them using the livestream as energy and pretty much draining it from its blood, or humans are saved and spared and the planet is healed. Cloud gets his memory back and finds out who he actually is and that he never made it as a member of Soldier. And let's talk about this real quick. In the original game, they never state Cloud and Zack as best friends. Yes, they were friends, but Cloud never recalls Zack as his best friend. And if we were to follow the compilation's continuity, Jill would be Zack's best friend, not Cloud. And Zack is just a good person and he's friendly to everyone, and in Crisis Core, and he sees Cloud about 2 or 3 times, and that's pretty much it. They never become best friends and they never state them as best friends, and that's following Crisis Core. In the original game, it's even less than that. Okay, moving on. Shinra is done for. Arguably, the true villain of the story is finally finished. For Holy to be able to protect the planet, the party must defeat Sephiroth, because he's at the core of the planet, blocking the spell for Meteor to be able to act. Before the final dungeon, the Northern Crater, Cloud lets everyone go figure out the reason for them to keep fighting till the very end, in a way of saying goodbye to their loved ones. And Cloud admits, after regaining his own self, that it is a personal feud with Sephiroth. And this is one of the points that marks the end of his character arc. And saving the planet is just a part of his personal feud with Sephiroth. He tells everyone to come back after they have found their motivation and said goodbye to their loved ones. And right after, Tifa and Cloud share a personal moment where they both pretty much admit they love each other, but due to cultural and time reasons, like back in the 90s, they share their feelings in different ways. Tifa has become Cloud's anchor. She's the most important character for Cloud because she's the one who brings his original self back. And they both establish each other as each other's strength and anchor. They know they're not alone when they are both together. Everyone comes back after finding their motivations and saying goodbye, but start mourning the loss of a party member, Aerith. And this is super important for when we talk about Final Fantasy VII Advent Children later in the video. By this point in the game, remember, we are right before the final dungeon and about to fight Sephiroth. Aerith should have reached the livestream. She should have returned to the planet right now. But Cloud states that something is stopping her, and that something is them. The party. They are still mourning Aerith constantly. They need to move on to help her, and the Cloud explicitly says that they have to let go of Aerith's memory. This is super important because this moment completely throws Advent Children off. Cloud goes from being this reserved, cocky, and sometimes sarcastic guy at the beginning of the game to a big softy with his friends, so much so that Sid gets mad at him for saying stuff like, let's mosey, due to how much he has changed. So the party travels to the core of the planet where they meet Sephiroth and actually see Holy being blocked by him. That light you see in the picture, that light is Holy. So the party fight and beat Sephiroth in both of his transformations, Bizarro Sephiroth and the one we have on screen, which is Safer Sephiroth. After this fight, Sephiroth's body is over, and that's very important, Sephiroth's body. But when the party is sure they've beaten Sephiroth and they're about to get out of the northern crater, Cloud is dragged into this out-of-body experience by none other than Sephiroth. This fight takes place as Cloud fighting the last of Sephiroth's mind and will. And in one of the best ending boss fights in all gaming. What am I talking about? In one of the best moments in gaming ever, Cloud beats the last of Sephiroth by using an Omni Slash. And this is super important because we see Sephiroth covered in blood, die, vanish right in front of our eyes. And still in this out-of-body experience, Cloud sees Aeris' hand reaching out to him. And right when he's about to grab her, Cloud comes back and is about to grab Tifa's hand. And they are about to fall into the planet's core when Cloud saves her, grabs the ledge, and tells her that he understands in a way that Aeris is not gone, that he can still meet her in the Promised Land. Now, the Promised Land is something that is never explicitly defined in the game. We have some ideas of what it is, but this video is not about that. It's just a way of saying that Cloud understands that Aeris is not completely gone and that he can still meet her somehow. We see that Cloud was not the only one to see or feel Aeris, but people in Midgard are actually sensing her too. We see Marlene sense her only to go out and look through the window to find the same thing the party sees when they are out of the planet's core and boarding the highway. They see Meteor about to crash with the planet. On the last moment before it does, Holy comes up and tries to fight Meteor, but it is too late, and Meteor is already too close. So the planet pulls out the live stream in an effort to destroy Meteor, and while we see this, we see Aeris once again in the same shot as the beginning of the game, and it fades to black. After the credits, we get a scene that happens 500 years after the ending of the game. We see Midgard completely covered in plants with the only signs of intelligent life being Nanaki, or Red 13, and two of what appears to be his cubs, with no sign of humanity left, only to be greeted by the logo of the game we just finished and the laughs of some children. That's the ending of Final Fantasy VII, an open ending. The planet survived, but what happened to humanity? What happened to the party? We don't know. It's open to interpretation, and if you ask me, I don't believe humanity made it. Holy saw the humans as threats to the planet and wiped them out. Or the livestream that jumped out of the planet did. The children laughing, in my opinion, could be either Nanaki's cops, because it could also be a memory of the past. And this leads us to why I believe Final Fantasy VII Advent Children does not work as a sequel. What are Cloud's issues in the movie? He's now extremely depressed and filled with guilt over Iris' death. He is now sick of geostigma and wants to fight alone. Cloud was never really a depressive or emo character. He was actually quite sarcastic, and by the end of the game, he even tries to talk softly to the party in a very kind way. And I understand that Cloud feels guilty for Aeris, but Cloud was the one to ask the party to let go of Aeris' memory, to move on, because by being depressed over it, Aeris cannot reach the live stream. Cloud or the party really felt regret, remorse, or depression. In Cloud's case, this would not have happened and Aeris would not have reached the live stream. So Cloud being depressed and feeling guilty in Advent Children just feels like a bunch of steps back for the character, making the ending of the game feel totally unearned and disappointing. I understand they wanted to convey the feeling of trauma and PTSD, but Cloud has already fought through that in the original game. For everyone that watched Steven Universe, PTSD makes so much more sense there, since Steven Universe shows the personal growth and battle of Steven's PTSD in there. Cloud, in this case, had already conquered those hard feelings while accepting the truth of himself, of who he actually is. Why does Cloud want to fight alone? He learned in the game that he needs his friends, especially Tifa. Now he has the drive to fight alone and be alone the entire time he was taking into this emo phase. I understand it was a tendency back, but in the game, he's not emo. Not ever. At this point in the movie, even Reno tells him that Tifa wants Cloud to move on, because he already did. Which brings us to Tifa in the movie. If you remove Tifa from the movie, yes, you will miss a pretty cool battle scene, but for what happens in the story, it pretty much remains intact. The movie does a complete disservice to Tifa. Cloud and Tifa don't share any valuable interaction in the story. I understand that the movie wants to focus on Cloud's struggle, which again makes no sense, but it's as if the movie doesn't take into consideration Tifa's character arc and how she's Cloud's anchor. They completely forget about this scene, the culmination of their relationship, the most important relationship in the game. Cloud is not alone, and he knows it. Even if the entire party is gone, they both know that they will have each other as their confidant and their partner. They can take anything together. It makes no sense that Cloud now feels alone. In this scene, they accept that they need each other and only each other, now and forever. Let's remember that one of the events that actually starts Final Fantasy VII's story is Cloud wanting to join Soldier to impress Tifa when they were kids. And the way Cloud delivers the last line of the movie when he says, "I'm not alone, not anymore." Cloud, bro, has Tifa been a joke for the last 2 years? Has the entire party been a joke? Which makes a scene in the movie feel like a complete contradiction where they depict Tifa and Cloud as a yin and yang when their interactions are so empty. They never share a meaningful interaction. This yin and yang makes a ton of sense for the original game, but in Advent Children, it just feels so out of place because Cloud could not care any less about her in the movie. And another contradiction are their character designs. I understand these are renders from Dissidia and T. I mean, I've never been a fan of Cloud's Advent Children design, but I'm not gonna talk about that any longer. What I want to focus is on how their designs match each other. It is clear when you see both of their visual designs that they are meant to talk between each other and show them as a couple and as partners, or as a team. The materials, the colors, the shapes are kind of shared to show how both of them influence each other. I find this detail to be pretty cool. It's too bad, again, they share no meaningful interaction or even fight together in the movie. They're never together in the movie. It also lets you know that Cloud was never alone. And this design connection is even more obvious when Cloud removes his sleeve and shows that him, as the rest of the party does, has a ribbon tied to remember Aeris. They just make it extremely obvious with Cloud and Tifa that they share this ribbon, which brings us to the issue of Cloud wanting to be alone and wanting to fight alone against the world and Geostigma. But since all of these moves his character are back, it feels more like a product of its time, when emo and edgelords were cool. But Final Fantasy VII already had a character like that, and I'm talking about Vincent Valentine. They mixed Cloud and Vincent for Kingdom Hearts and made his personality in that game very similar to his personality in Advent Children. But let's remember Cloud's humor and mood was completely different in the original game, and proof of this is Dirge of Cerberus. They made a game about Vincent because Square loved this personality. That's why Cloud feels completely off in the movie. That's because he's acting like a totally different character that's already a part of that universe, and he's already Cloud's friend. Now, since we're already tapping into the Torx territory with Vincent, let's talk about them very briefly. Doesn't it just feel weird how they just still work for Rufus Shinra just out of pure loyalty? By the end of the game, they do show they have grown as characters by talking to the party and even refusing to fight them. Why are they still loyal to Rufus Shinra? I'm talking about Rufus. Why does he have a vial of the Genova cells? Like, it just feels like a convenient plot device. You could argue he's using them for some sort of research, but it is a little weird that he decided to keep them, and not only that, but to make the matter worse, carry the Genova cells with him, when they are literally one of the reasons why the original catastrophe happened. But even more awkward is the fact that he decides to reveal to Kadaj that he has the Genova cells in his possession and decides to throw them away right in front of him for Kadaj to patch. Really? Like, Rufus Shinra is shown at the beginning of the movie to have changed and wanting to stop Sephiroth's revival. But Shinra Company literally created Sephiroth twice right here. Now, talking about Sephiroth's remnants, they are so vaguely explained. I know there is a novel that tells you about their origins, but even there it is extremely vague. From what I know, Sephiroth just sort of created them from within the live stream because he wanted to. And that brings us to Sephiroth's return. Sephiroth's return works in almost the same way that it did in the original Final Fantasy VII. It just feels like he didn't actually earn it this time. And it doesn't make any sense in Final Fantasy VII's universe storytelling. Before the events of the game, Sephiroth was presumed dead after the Nibelheim incident. During this incident, Cloud greatly injured Sephiroth by stabbing him with the Buzzer sword and then throwing Sephiroth into the livestream. Let's remember that the livestream itself can cause severe damage to a person submerged in it, and can consume them, which is something that presumably happened to Sephiroth, but due to him not being completely consumed by it, he was able to rebuild himself by calling the Genova genes and the reunion, which is the reason why he rebuilt himself in a cocoon. But more importantly for this video, it is the reason why Sephiroth not actually dying makes sense, because you never actually see Sephiroth die or death. A quick note here, in storytelling, a character is not dead until you see it. So Sephiroth being alive is not completely out of the question after this incident. But coming back to life in Nathan Children makes no sense and completely feels like cheating on the spectator because we see Sephiroth die, covered in blood and vanish. And to that I'm gonna say, really? After all that, Sephiroth just came back because he wanted to come back? In here, he created the Sephiroth gene in the livestream and then created the remnants that he controlled only for them to become him by touching and absorbing the Genova genes? After him completely dying, you can tell me that doesn't feel cheap. So in a way, Sephiroth is never dead and can come back whenever he wants. And talking about the Sephiroth gene, again, it is super cheap that he sort of contaminated the livestream. What originated the geostigma epidemic was that when the livestream came to the surface to stop mature, the Sephiroth gene in the livestream came into contact with a lot of people on the surface and became sick. Sephiroth's original plan was to become a god, and in theory he never did because the party stopped him, but he kinda did. He can create sickness out of him being dead and can come back to life whenever he wants. Now, this is crucial. This is something that is more about Crisis Core, but after the complete edition of the movie, it is now part of Advent Children. I used to love Crisis Core, but after playing Reunion, I have mixed feelings about it, and if you guys want me to make a video out of it, let me know. But Zack telling Cloud he is his living legacy completely destroys a lot of Cloud's character and his identity, as well as diminish his story throughout the game. It's as if after Crisis Core, they wanted to shift focus from Cloud to Zack, and Zack being the true hero of the story because he's acting through Cloud. Advent Children further reinforces this idea after Sephiroth is completely destroying Cloud in a fight and Cloud gaining the upper edge and eventually beating Sephiroth. Once Zack talks to him and tells him, "Remember, you are my living legacy." Cloud was already messed up in the original story. This sort of brings him back to be who he thought he was, and that's what makes him stronger. I think Cloud's character is beautiful and make him even more dependent on who Zack is, even after finding out who he actually is, takes away a lot of the credit Cloud deserves. It also wants to be this extremely obvious way for people to see why Cloud was confused. It never needed to be that way. And let's go into Aerith's character in the movie. She's elevated into a goddess. In the original game's ending, it is implied and up to interpretation if she had any sort of influence over the livestream, but she never actually controlled it. In the movie, she's able to do so. She's able to talk to Cloud or anyone she wants whenever she feels like it. The intention behind the original game was to showcase the meaning of life and death. How Aerith was completely gone after she died, and the party finding out, even though she is gone, her influence and presence is not. The party finds out about her casting Holy a lot of time after she already passed. They find out about her past and family, and eventually finding out that they can meet her in the promised land. All of that after she already passed, which leads us to Aerith's presence to be constant in the game but not obvious or Iris literally talking to the party. Iris was never able to talk to anyone whenever she wanted to and do whatever she wanted from within the live stream. The way Advent Children handles it ruins this message from the original by having her show up a lot, talking to Cloud and the Remnants quite often, and even having Cloud come back to life. The movie wanted to exploit the sadness of Iris being gone, but ends up doing the complete opposite by showing she's actually more present in the story and in Cloud's life than even Tifa herself. Last, but definitely not least, they let go of a beautiful executed open ending. Either you think every human died or is alive, the ending was beautiful and open to interpretation. You could still argue that the ending, which is 500 years after the events of the game and 498 years after Advent Children, could still see humanity wiped in some way or form. But it's not the same as the original. It closes the open ending into being more like people abandoned Midgar and that's it, which was already one of the interpretations people had. A well-crafted open ending is very hard to achieve, and I'm bummed about Advent Children just throwing that away. The other day I even read an interpretation from Yoshinori Kitase that stated that humanity died. Yes, there are laughs in the interview and some people take it as a sarcastic way of telling his interpretation of the game, but he's sort of enclosing what he believes the ending is. Now, events that should have happened in the original Final Fantasy VII that actually happened in Advent Children. Cloud leaves the Buster Sword, and although this scene is super depressing in Advent Children, I love the idea of Cloud leaving the Buster Sword behind, just not the way it is executed in the movie or the fact that it is in the movie. In my opinion, Cloud should have left the Buster Sword behind when every party member leaves to find their motivation. When Tifa and Cloud are alone, Cloud should have left the Buster Sword right there, with Tifa being there with him and gifting him a new sword. It would be pretty cool that if certain requirements are met, Tifa gifted Cloud the ultimate weapon, and if not, she gifted Cloud some other sword. And right after, have the scene played that we already have in the game, and we discussed already in the video, where both of them share a bit of their feelings. It would strengthen their bond, and it would be beautiful to have that sword for the final fight against Sephiroth. Remember, Cloud has a personal feud with Sephiroth. He never states anything about Zack in the game. This would release Cloud of everything involving Zack and completely free him from his past, settling the feud with Sephiroth by himself and for himself. I love that the flowers in the church become the livestream infused water in some sort of pond. This would be beautiful to have in the game and would have been amazing to have as an extra cutscene where if you visit the church after Iris is dead, when you're able to return to Midgar, you find the flowers have become a pond that heals the party. This would show the connection Iris had with the planet, the flowers, and the church. This would be a reminder that Iris is still present without being extremely obvious to the player. Now, what Advent Children does right? Well, the action is great. There is nothing else to say here, but the action sequences are fantastic. They're extremely fun and well crafted, and I do believe this is the reason why people actually love the movie. How they finished this scene is actually beautiful, where Cloud in the ending is not able to grab Iris' hand, but in the movie he actually does. It's actually a very beautiful way they close this loop, and one of the only few instances that it sort of makes sense, his guilt and all that, and he's sort of relieved of it, and it still holds up pretty well visually. Even though the movie is almost 20 years old, it still looks really good. Yes, I mean, it doesn't look like it is a movie released this year, but it just shows how the art team was really good at crafting their visuals, because it still looks fairly well. And let's be honest, this sequence is really good. The sequence showcasing Sephiroth's return is so, and I mean it, so good, so elegant, and I'll just leave it at that. In the end, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children is not boring to watch. It's actually really fun, but I can't help to be annoyed by how destroyed a lot of the original plot points and character arcs from the original game that they developed so well. The movie doesn't make too much sense when you compare it to the original game, which makes me wish this movie was about some new Final Fantasy spin-off and not a sequel to a beautiful game with a beautiful story that had already been closed. I'd love to see Square Enix make a new movie, probably based on Ivalice, that would be amazing, or something akin to classic Final Fantasy, that tells the story of a new set of Heroes of Light. The story doesn't need to be extra complicated, you just need enough from the hero's journey to couple it with the Final Fantasy flair. Of course, it's easier said than done, It's not easy to nail an art style, kind of animation, visuals, the story, rendering. All of that is not easy. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is releasing next week, and when the remake trilogy is over, probably Advent Children will make sense, since we know they are going to connect it to the movie. But yeah, that's all I have for you. If you like the movie, let me know what you like that I missed. If you're on my boat, join my team and let me know if I missed something. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one, guys.